In this screencast, I'm going to show you how you can create a simple interactive computer program that displays a menu to the user and asks the user to choose a menu item, and then based on the choice that the user makes, the program will do different things. So let's consider a simple menu. So a menu could, for example, have three options. So the first option could be that the user should enter his name. Second option could be that the program should display a greeting. And the third option could be that we should quit the program. Right, so we want to create a program that displays a little menu like this, just a simple text-based menu, and then ask the users to choose menu option 1, 2, or 3. So we could ask, please choose a menu option. Right, and then after displaying this, the user should type in 1 or 2 or 3, and if I type in 2, for example, then you should and press enter, you should display the greeting. If I type 3, the program should end, and so on. So what I'm going to show next is how to create such a program so that we can generate menus in general that could have a different number of options and so on, and how we can error check that the user actually types in a number that corresponds to one of the menu items. Now to do this, I'll use two functions which are described in the exercise material, and the first function is called input number, and I'll just copy paste that into Python here like this, and I'll save that as a file called inputnumber.py. Alright, so now I have saved my file. I'll run that, and we can take a look at what it does. So input number is a function which displays a prompt to the user, and it asks the user to type in a number, and then it will continue to run as long as until the user has typed in a valid number. So for example, let's try it out. We can simply go to the console here and type x equals input number, and now we'll give it some prompts. This is basically just some text that will describe that will print out on the screen. For example, we could type in, please input a number. And now when I press enter, my function runs and it prints out this prompt to the user. And if I type in something that's not a number, it will just ask me once again. Okay, and it will continue to do this until I type in something that is a number, for example, the number 7. And in this case, it will simply save that number into the variable x, which it creates now. Okay, the way that the function works is that it has an infinite loop. So it continues until the user has typed in a number, and it uses a try except statement here. This is a little bit different than what we've seen before. And the reason is that we use first the input function to display the prompt and ask the user to type in something, and then it uses the function float to convert whatever the user has typed into a number, so a decimal number, using this float function. And if this conversion fails, so if it's not possible to convert the number into convert the input, the type string into a number, then the float function will actually generate what's called an exception, and that means that the execution of the code will just jump down here to this except keyword, and it will give an exception called a value error. And if that happens, it will just pass and go back to the infinite loop and continue again. If the conversion does not fail, so it's actually a number that's been typed in, it will continue to the break statement and break out of the infinite loop and return that number. Now the second function we'll use is called display menu, and I'll just copy paste that into Python again like this, and I'll save that in a function, save that in a file called displaymenu.py. So now I've saved my file, I can run it, and then we can use this this function. So if we take a look at what the function does, well, it displays a menu of options, and it takes in an input variable options that is an array of strings, one string for each of the menu options that we're going to display, and it will return the chosen option, which is an integer, in this case the number of the chosen menu item. The way it works is that it starts by displaying all the menu options using this loop over the length of the options, and it will display first a number, the number of the option, and then the string corresponding to that menu option that it takes from this options input. Once the menu has been displayed, it will use a loop to ask the user to choose one of the numbers from the possible options. It uses this variable choice to save that chosen menu option, and it initializes that to 0 because that's an invalid option, and then it will continue updating that until it has a valid value. And it uses this while loop to do that. So it compares compares choice to the range with the length of the number of options plus 1. So for example, if there are 3 menu options, then this whole thing will be the range 1, 2, 3. And if choice has a value within that range, it will stop. Otherwise, it will just continue asking for a number. And it uses this function that we used before, the input number function, to ask the user to type in a number. So what it will do is it will display the menu and then continue asking for a number until the user has typed in a number corresponding to one of the menu options. So let's try it out. So we could say x equals to display menu, and now I have to give it an array of numbers. So I could type np.array and then type in the numbers, the menu options that we could have. And that could be, for example, enter name, display greeting, and quit. So these could be my options. Okay, so when I do this, my display menu will run. Oh, I forgot to import NumPy. I can do it again, and now it will display my menu. So I have these 3 menu options. Now I can type in something. Let's say I type in something that's not a number, like hello. Then it will just ask me again. Let's say I type in a number, but it's not one of these numbers 1, 2, or 3. For example, 7. Then it will just ask me again. And it will continue until I type in something that's actually a valid number on the list. For example, I could type in 2. And then the function will return and put that value into the variable x like I asked it to do. Now we can finally put everything together and create a interactive program. So first, let us create a new Python file and create an interactive program that displays a menu and does different things depending on what the user chooses. So first, let us define the menu items. I'll just write a comment here, and I'll create a variable, menu items. That is an NP array with the different items, and I will have 3 items: enter name, display greeting, and quit. Now I'm using NumPy here, so I'll have to import NumPy like this. Okay. So once I've defined my menu items, I can display my menu and save the chosen menu item in a variable. I'll call that choice. Now I just feed in the variable menu items into the display menu function. And I'll write a comment for that as well. Now I can do different things depending on what the item has been chosen. So I can write if choice equals to 1. So if the user has typed in 1, I could ask the user to type in his name. And I'll save that in a variable called name. And use input function. Please enter your name. Okay. Now if the user has typed in 2, I can type else if or elif choice equals to 2. Here I'll display a greeting. I'll just print out the name variable. Very simple. We can make it more advanced. And finally, if the user has typed in 3, we will quit the program. Alright, so, and actually the whole program should continue until the user types quit. So we'll just put everything in an infinite loop. So I'll type while true, and I'll just indent everything here, and then we can just type break here. So if the user chooses the third option, we'll break out of this infinite loop, and the program will stop. Okay, I'll just write a few comments just to make it easier to see what the program does. So here is enter name. Here's what the program does if we choose display greeting, and this is what the program does if we choose quit. Okay, so that's my program. I'll save that in a file called program.py, and now I can simply run it. Okay, so if we go to the console here, now my program runs down here, and we can see what it does. So it displays the menu, or shows the menu items here, enter name, display greeting, and so on. And now I can start by entering my name. For example, I'll type in 1, and I'll type my name. And once that's done, it'll display the menu again. So it'll just go back and display the menu items again. Now I can display the greeting. I choose option 2, and it will just, type out my name here. And finally, I could, let me just try typing in a number that's not one of the menu items, so 7 for example. Then it will just ask me again because that's not a valid number. Or I could type in something that's clearly not a number. It'll just ask me again. And finally I could maybe type 3 and the program will quit. And that's pretty much it. So that's how you can create a simple interactive program. And of course you can expand on this and do some more error checks and so on, but this is sort of the general approach.